Good morning, good afternoon, dear viewers, friends, and colleagues. Today it's my pleasure to welcome to the channel Dr. Parth Vakil, and he is joining us from neighborhood of Washington, D.C., as far as I understand. Yes, and we worked with Parth when he was doing his intern at Sanofi, so it's a long-term communication back and forth that we had and maintain the connection. So it was great to see how Parth evolves in his educational journey, followed by his career path. And today I'm grateful he is interested to share his insights, how he feels, what's important to be successful, and how it's important to find the niche that really is appealing and interesting for the individual to carry on and have a meaningful career and enjoy the workplace he's in. So to start with, a brief introduction. So Parth started at the University of Toronto at the Nano Bioscience, right? You correct me, please.
Yeah, nanoengineering. Right.
Nanoengineering, yes. And so after that, as a part of his journey there, he was also doing intern at Sanofi. That's where we met. And he was extremely helpful with several projects, learning analytical tools. And I think after some time, he decided to go to pursue the PhD, and it was in US in the Florida State University. And that gave him different specialty. Parth, please help me again.
Yeah, I focused on synthesis and applications of nanomaterials with some applications for um, drug delivery and biophysics as well.
Yes, because this field is very interesting and is very branched. So I asked Parth to help because I don't want to make mistake, first of all. But also nanomaterials, I think you see the penetration of this thing everywhere. So it's very good to, have this niche, occupy this niche because it's in medical field, I know in medical devices, you see a lot of applications of the nanomaterials nowadays. Now, after graduation, he worked at TA Instruments and then progressed into Waters Corporation because TA Instruments, I believe, became part of Water Corporation and then went to Sigma Millipore, where he's now, I think, evolving into a different role about which he will tell us a little bit more. So Parth, floor is yours. Welcome to the channel. It's a pleasure
Thank you.
to greet you here and to see you evolving and growing. So please share what's important for you, something that may be very helpful for people who just starting their career path or maybe at the crossroads and they need some hints how to progress to find meaningful workplace and meaningful occupation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marina. Thank you for having me on the channel, and nice to meet whoever is watching this recording later. Yes, my name is Parth Vakil, and like Marina said, I started my career in the field of engineering. I was interested in science, played with Legos, wanted to make things, create things, ruled out the field of medicine, was not very familiar with the field of business. And so engineering seemed to be a good fit for my interests. And so that is how I started my program. And for me, and I think for a lot of us, I think having a passion for what you're doing is important. And so that is what sort of drove me and my interests during my career. And so in school, I got to learn about the different types of fields. I also have a lot of interest in various subject areas. So I would say I started more as a generalist, interested in all types of subjects. But then eventually I was drawn more towards how can we find applications in the world of healthcare, biology, and so the nanoengineering program allowed me to understand cutting edge science and technology, how researchers are trying to find ways to be inspired by nanostructures in nature for applications for technology, but also how are we using nanomaterials to improve cell therapy, drug delivery, and imaging, etc. And so part of my engineering degree also included working at Sanofi. I always knew that, well, I didn't always know, but I wanted to know what it meant to be working in an organization outside of the world of academia and research. And so working at Sanofi was a good experience to understand that you can do science and research in a corporate setting as well. And of course, you get a better paycheck as well. And there's a chance to earn a living, but also do meaningful work. And through Marina's guidance, for example, I knew that in order to go further in science, one needs to pursue higher education. And it really depends on what you're interested in. And so because I wanted to be a scientist, go a little bit deeper into the world of science, I pursued my PhD. And in that area also, I picked a professor, I picked a field which I was interested in, which was the application of nanotechnology in biomedical sciences and biophysics. But then what I learned from the PhD also was that a PhD does not have to be, excuse me, a very narrow type of endeavor. During a PhD, you get to explore different aspects of research. Within the research group, you get to collaborate with different types of research groups and expand your knowledge. So you learn how to think outside of a box, and you get to see more about science and how different topics overlap with each other. And so, yes, after I finished my PhD, I knew I was going to work in industry, given the great experience I had had at Sanofi. I was not really keen on pursuing the academic track, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of colleagues who are in the academic track, which, as a pro tip, just remember, not everybody needs to join academia to become a researcher and run a lab. You can also become an academic where you work with a primarily undergraduate institute, do more teaching, do a minimal research component. So there are different tracks within academia you should also explore. It's not just one picture. And then when it comes to the corporate world, I was very fortunate that after I finished my PhD, I got a field application scientist or engineer role with TA Instruments. This was a role that is sometimes also seen as a good stepping stone for new graduates or someone who is looking into going into a commercial setting. So if you are someone from science and you still like to do science, but you are interested in working with customers, you want to work with salespeople and provide technical solutions to solve problems that customers have, always explore a field application scientist or field applications engineer type of role with organizations. And so that role really opened my eyes. It allowed me to self-reflect and understand that while I like science and technology, I also really like working with people. And of course, getting to travel around and visiting new places is also an additional bonus. But because of that, I realized that I really like working with people, helping people, but still having a scientific component to my career. And so I was in that role for over 3 years. I grew a lot. I got to learn more outside of what I've learned in my PhD in undergrad. I got to learn about scientific instruments. I got to learn about polymer science and chemistry and characterization, which was something I never really dived deeper into. So you will always continue to learn in life. There's so much to know. And as long as you are excited to learn and, develop new skills and gather new knowledge, I think that's always something to look forward to. You don't have to be, only specialized in one specific area of science. And a lot of success that has come in science from a book I think I once read, people get inspiration from various fields of science to make a breakthrough. So it's good to also have a big picture view of how the world works and how science works. And so during that time, I also, to wrap it up, I was more interested on the business side of things and also trying to find a way if I could, move geographically. And so I was very lucky. I found a role at MilliporeSigma, which is a life science company and supports, life science industries plus other industries as well. And so I joined as a global business development manager. I was part of a product management team, but I was very closely working with the commercial teams and customers, but also working with the sites and facilities that support the products that go out to customers. And so through that experience, I got to really understand what it means to work in a much larger organization, learn a little bit about aspects about product management, learn about supply chain, learn about global chemicals markets and how does a product get delivered from manufacturing or a supplier to an end customer, and learning about various tools. So not only learning about the operations of the business and how you can help customers who are developing critical solutions for healthcare and human safety and medicines, but also you get to learn about different types of tools that organizations use. What are the different types of softwares and programs they're using to analyze data, to track data, and understand products and websites and etc. So always a lot of learning to do. And then in my current role as a business insights consultant, I've been more drawn towards business, which I did not do a lot of earlier in my career. So I've been going more towards business, maybe a little bit more away from science. But learning about business insights is about understanding the health and the operations of an organization, and how can you get insights from data in order to drive future decisions for an organization and to improve. And so, follow your passions, be aware of all the things out there. And I think in today's digital age with, AI agents like ChatGPT, but also the internet, there are so many resources. You have so many people you can connect with through LinkedIn. You can learn about careers that you might be interested in, but you're not sure of. So you have a lot of tools to make decisions, but don't be afraid to try different things. There's no perfect career path. You do different things. You learn about yourself, about the roles, and hopefully you will find success like many of us have through exploring different areas.
No, that's very nice, because you share like evolution, but also from, at least from what I'm hearing, you follow what is interesting. So you try to see bigger picture, try different aspects, and see what's most appealing for you. And it's interesting you mentioned, like, you're going into business and it's less science, but in fact, I think science never disappears, because it gives you the background, the depth. And in business decisions, you can always go and see, okay, what's the nature of the product, or maybe manufacturing process, or understanding its characteristics to make decisions. Because sometimes if you just look at the numbers, it's not good enough. So really, two together give you more strength, more depth, maybe more justification. Even when you talk to people, it can explain better. So these two always kind of come hand in hand. Although I know that science and business, they always not always going same direction. But even if it's conflicting, it still gives the chance to find middle ground where both sides can coexist. But also we just had a video with Dr. Muna Al-Musli here, and she's talking about regulatory science. But here in the Middle East, apparently you have to look at everything: product, market, costs, everything. So basically, she mentioned it kind of like in a different wording, but she emphasized that it has to be business decision. Yes, you have to put regulatory hat. You need to know about the awareness of the like basically legal environment. But in reality, you have to think also about cost of entry. So when you said interest in business, I think it kind of also resonates, maybe from different angle, but resonates kind of very much from what I heard from her. So it's interesting to hear, different person, different continent, and we're talking same language, same, same thoughts, because in any company, that's what it is important, right? You have to launch the product and
Yes, absolutely.
successfully with maintaining margin, right? So this becomes critical. What else would you like to share? I think career path is very interesting, and because we're on innovation and sustainability. So, in your view, like, what is sustainable workforce? Like, how you see maybe for new graduates, how they can be themselves sustainable and help businesses to be strong or retain themselves longer on the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question. I think when I think about sustainability and in the workforce, I think that it definitely starts off with your personal values, how important it is, and I think today a lot of people are recognizing the importance of that. And so one of the first things you can always do is when you are following your compass, you want to make sure you you want to be part of an organization that is also driven by sustainability. You should always also look at the company's background. You can always do research on the company and look at what efforts they are taking, to push for sustainability and sustainable innovation as well. And so that is one of the first checks you can
Mm-hmm.
always do when considering whether you want to work for an organization or not. And then another aspect I think in today's world is, sustainability, of course, is complex as well. It is becoming it's becoming sort of mandatory. It's becoming incorporated into all actions of a company, and from what I've experienced also, and what I've heard of from others as well. And so, some aspects of that also include, for example, in today's world, people get to work remotely, and so that is a way of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sort of being a little bit more sustainable. If the work is possible remotely, then you are not commuting. The organization is not having buildings and electricity running 24/7. Sometimes you'll see corporate buildings in downtowns that have their lights on at night, and that could be for
Yes.
safety, or it helps with heating during winter months with the heat from the light. But I think sustainability can come from um, researching the organization you're working at. You can also think about ways you can be sustainable. If it's a remote position, you're already making a difference. And then when you're at an organization, a lot of organizations have uh, employee groups that are driven around sustainability outside of a corporate mandate. So there are ways that you can participate. You can do volunteering work. You can participate and find ways that the company is promoting sustainability and education. And so by educating people in your community, or if there's opportunities to work with schools, that might be another way to think about sustainability. And it's a journey. It's not an overnight transformation, but I think we're seeing a lot of momentum across all organizations, and it's become a key,
Mm.
cornerstone, because people care, investors care, customers care, and employees also care about the organization they work
They
with.
work in, yeah, but interesting. You mentioned that basically what just said seems that allows employees to have more exposure, more like beyond their workplace. So in fact, make themselves more visible, maybe even find a niche when themselves become more sustainable, meaning stay the course, stay in the workplace, or maybe change it or create something for themselves that they haven't been able to even see before or kind of picture for themselves to be in. So that's like another avenue to explore. Of course, takes a lot of energy, by all means, but I think it's still worth it because some things are lifetime investment, or some things it's evolution. Like you said, it's a journey, and every time you see something different from the window. It's not always the same, the same scenery. So for sure. In terms of education, I know you chose engineering career path and evolved from that into science. I know engineering is big, and I think these days becomes more prominent. Do you see like colleagues with the same background a lot or different? Like, what do you see in the current workforce? Like, where are people coming from in terms of education background?
Yeah,
Any
that's a good
comments?
question, Marina. I think from what I've seen, from colleagues I know, past colleagues, people who work at organizations, I think um, they come from all different types of backgrounds. You have people from science backgrounds, you have people from engineering backgrounds, you have people from business backgrounds as well. You have people from marketing backgrounds as well. And in terms of education, also, you have people who have bachelor's degrees, you have master's degrees, and then masters, then you have MBA, non-MBA, you have people with data and analytics backgrounds as well. And then you have people with PhDs, you have people with PhDs and MBAs, you have people with law degrees as well. So I think there's a good mix of people with all sorts of degrees. And then people have different levels of experience. So, you can have a bachelor's degree, but with 10, 15 years of work experience, taking on different roles, maybe working in different organizations. I think you learn a lot of skills,
Yes, for
even if you
sure.
did not have an advanced degree, and those are all very useful and beneficial skills. But then also having some sort of science degree when you're working for a science-based company is also very beneficial because, like you said earlier, you can speak the language, you understand what the products are, where they're used, things like that. So I would say a good mix. I think there's a good mix, but following the news, I know there's a lot of push for AI and data science
Yes,
as well.
yes,
But
yes.
I think some of the AI tools have also, in a way, enabled people without the technical, digital skills to actually uh, become more effective and efficient. So I think
Mm-hmm.
now you see that these AI tools are able to even write code. So if someone who is passionate enough and willing to learn, you should be able to use these types of tools to get the foundations of the code and then put it in to do some analysis, and then you can build upon it over time. But I think I still appreciate those who have a very strong AI and coding background because you cannot replace that human element by just battling through with an agent and trying to figure out why this is not working and what needs to be
Yes,
tweaked.
you're
Yeah,
right.
but
Yeah,
all sorts of backgrounds. I haven't noticed a specific trend
right.
or a pool of just engineers or scientists or business people, at least from my work experiences.
Your work. I think I can say the same. We had lots of PhDs. We also had people with masters. We had people with bachelors who had long-term experience, and sometimes, you see they know more than those who just graduated. And I think it's natural. It's the way, people's path are different. But I think you're right. It's always collection. It's always community network, a lot lateral or vertical zoom up, but it has to become strong with the interconnections so that this organism, if you will, as organization becomes efficient and moves same direction because we all have different agendas because of the roles, but then has to be going certain direction together to succeed. So that's very important. But you're right. In many organizations, you see different walks of life, but they come together and yeah, things happen.
Yes.
Product gets developed, and yes, and people see it on the market. Those who need it, they receive it. So that's very important. But I think in the closing, we still have maybe a few minutes. What would you recommend maybe for people for looking for opportunities or who may be at the crossroads? What you would suggest them to look into?
Yeah, I definitely would say that one thing that I did not cover was uh, soft skills are important, and I think people skills are important, especially today in a digital age. So when you are, looking into a career, into a new role and a new opportunity, think about transferable skills, and not all of those transferable skills have to be technical skills. I think the importance of interpersonal skills and emotional IQ and how to interact with others and communicate is very critical. And you can see that when, communication breaks down, how many challenges happen because someone makes an assumption, people are misaligned on the direction. And so I would say that do not forget to focus on soft skills. It's important to even read certain books that you will find people with a lot of experience in their careers have read. So make sure you search up some of the top books to understand how to work with people, how to work in teams and communicate. And then also I would say it's important to be well rounded. Even if you love science and you want to do research and in the lab, but if you're looking for growth and opportunities, keep an open mind. You might find being a field applications, exciting, or going into a
Mm,
business insights consultant role. So keep an open mind. Try to diversify your background. Try to learn a little bit more about the business side of things. If you're more, for example, on the science side of things, it's important because at the end of the day, the money does matter as well. But then also, it's best if you can bring in lots of knowledge and experience, but also have that right people skills, which people are looking for. Sometimes it's easier to teach people certain technical aspects, but you cannot teach someone how to work under pressure, or how do you communicate directly, or how do you, ensure that you know things are smooth amongst everybody in the organization. So I would say technical skills, general knowledge, business knowledge is
mm.
critical, but then also the people skills are very important in this digital age, especially.
Yes, I think it's a great point. I mean, I heard a conversation about having people skills, learning soft skills for many, many years. But I think now with the AI, it becomes again very, let's say, apparent or, back to the surface because, especially in remote work, it's not face to face. So communication has to be very clear, maybe gentle in a way, to basically convey the message to make sure that it's understood, so we're on the same page and so forth. But also, even if it's in person in Teams, people may have that day, but you still have to get the message through and do it in diplomatic manner, but at the same time, persuasive manner, maybe like
Yes,
influensive,
influential manner.
yes. So
Yes,
that
yes,
it's not
persuasive.
just somebody's opinion is something that important to get done, and you count on their support, and yeah, so it's the teamwork going together in the same direction, not separate ways. So that's the yes, I think it's a very important point you bring. So, and it's interesting. I had a discussion just recently with chief visionary officer of Skillscaper. I'm working with Skillscaper team now almost for a year, and um, Peter Isaacson. He basically said the same thing. He works on application for diplomacy. One of our products will be focusing on diplomacy, And he said, people skills, this in-person communication, nobody can replace, especially in an age. So, many things that, you're bringing today kind of resonates with the other speakers. So I'm really happy, that even like, again, across the ocean, we all think same. Across the seas,
Yeah,
we think same way. And it's very human, and it's something that can resonate with many people around the globe. So thank you, Parth, for your time.
thank you.
For coming today. I know it's early at your end, but still, yes, and it's a work week. So thank you for your time, and for our viewers. So today, Dr. Parth Vakil, he was here today talking about his career path and sharing what he thinks important. And I believe many of us can resonate and find that resonates with us, the thoughts that he shared. So, Parth, thank you again. It was great to
Thank
see you. Hope we can meet another time and we'll talk about different things, because sustainability is
Absolutely.
a huge topic. So, thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much,
much.
Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.